One of the best sellers in my Etsy shop is... Hey everyone, it's Alyssa and I'm back with another video, and in today's video I'm showing you 5 items that I always pick up from the thrift store because they sell really well on Etsy. Okay, so I'm actually going to make this like a 2-part series because this first one is going to be all about items that I always pick up because they sell really well, and then the second one is going to be about items that I've stopped picking up because they are not selling well. So this is me just sharing some fun advice for other resellers and Etsy shop owners, just so that you know this is what is and isn't doing well for my shop. Everybody's shop is a little bit different, and so that can kind of change and determine what you experience with your shop. But I do overall think some of the same trends and advice works across the board. So I do think it's still important information to share, even if it might be a little bit different from shop to shop. But without further ado, let's get into the items that I always pick up whenever I see at the thrift store because they sell really well on Etsy. First up is, weirdly enough, actually an item that I didn't pick up from a thrift store, but I picked up from an antique mall, and that is this beautiful strawberry painted shelf. I'm actually going to be keeping this for myself because I think it's so beautiful. I love the strawberries on it so much, and I really want to have a strawberry themed nursery someday. Don't worry, I'm not pregnant. I'm not married yet, but I'm planning to have kids once my fiance and I do get married, and so I thought it'd be really fun to have a strawberry themed nursery. So that's what this will be used for. But I do find that wooden items and shelf items do really well on Etsy. You do need to be careful. Don't get anything too massively big because you do have to ship items. But I've shipped things as large as quite a heavy and wide magazine rack, record storage. But particularly what you're going to be looking for is more of like the entryway type of storage. So think peg racks, little shelves, little just, hanging rack things. It can even be decorative wooden pieces, but just the vintage wood seems to do really well. It could even be wooden boxes and things like that. Lots of people love storage. They love the wood, but particularly the stuff you can put on your walls, I think just does really well on Etsy right now. So that's an item I usually always pick up at the thrift store. You can find it for a pretty good price, and it won't break the bank. Which means your profit margin can be even higher. But I will tell you, just as a general for this whole video, a disclaimer, this is all within reason. Sometimes you find stuff at the thrift store that you want that could be like brass or colored glass or a wooden piece, and it's just way too expensive for you to get a good profit margin from. So don't pick it up. Use your better judgment in those type of cases. But for the most part, wood pieces are always a good thing to pick up because they sell really well on Etsy for vintage sellers. Okay, another item that always sells well for me is amber glass. I have had a lot of different amber glass pieces in my vintage Etsy shop, and I can often not keep them in stock because they just fly off the shelf pretty much. They're probably one of the top sought after colored glass items. I usually look for the pink and the amber as the top ones, and then I also have things like green, as you can see. Whoops. As you can see, I've got the green colored glass here, and then there's also blue, ruby, lots of different purple. Sometimes purple is a very rare one to find, so if you can find that at a decent price, I do recommend picking that up. But amber just seems to do really well. I think I've mentioned this a couple times here on this channel, but I think it also photographs really well, and that's what helps translate well on Etsy, because the better the photographs, the more likely it is to sell. So anytime I find amber glass for a good price, I always pick it up at the thrift store. You've probably heard this next item from many people, not just me, but that's brass. Anytime you can find good and also cheap brass, do it. Cheap as in like the price is not too expensive, not that it's poor quality, but just that it's not too expensive. Brass just does really well. Lots of candlestick holders do well. There's also different types of brass like wall sconces, mirrors, picture frames, little figurines, bells. So there's lots of ways, candle snuffers, there's lots of ways you can, find brass, and different items you can find that are in brass. But anytime you can find it for a good price, it's always a good pickup because people are looking for that type of stuff on Etsy, and so it usually sells quite quickly. This is actually not available on my Etsy shop because I'm kind of hoarding some brass and gold things right now because I will be decorating a lot with vintage items for my wedding. So I'm gonna have like a whole set of things that'll be for my wedding that will then eventually make their way to Etsy. But I'm planning to, you know, first use them for my wedding, and then if they are still in good condition, resell them after. Now, this is one of those things where it may be different for your Etsy shop or someone else's Etsy shop, but that for me is actually sets of cups. Now, these are pink colored glass. You can't see them very well, but these are the Indiana Glass Company, and they're kind of modeled after depression glass, which if you can't get depression glass, that does sell pretty well. And it is quite valuable, but these are not exactly depression glass. They're just modeled after it, you know, kind of inspired by it, but they still do sell really well. All the Indiana Glass Company stuff I get usually sells well, and it's decently priced, like decently valuable. But I have, since I started my Etsy shop, done really well with selling like sets of 2 or 4 cups, like that are fancier cups. People seem to like buying sets like that, sometimes smaller sets or even bigger sets. I've sold bigger sets as well, but especially the colored glass people really like. So I think I usually try to find these in the thrift store. If ever I find them, I pick them up, where it's just a really cute set of colored glass cups. This last item might surprise you because it kind of surprised me when I was thinking about it, but it honestly is one of the best sellers that I have in my Etsy shop, so I couldn't not talk about it. But one of the best sellers in my Etsy shop is Christmas mugs. Any Christmas mug or Christmas cup that I add to my Etsy shop, typically around November, sells out without fail. Literally every single time they sell out. They can be super kitschy, they can be really cute vintage, something like this, which I think is a little bit more stylish, or they can literally have the little snowmen on them, as I said, kitschy. They sell really, really well, and I just try and pick them up anytime I can. They've got to be in good condition. Usually you can find them within the thrift store, whether it be mugs or cups. The snowman ones do really well. I've also sold ones with holly on them before. So I just have found that the holiday Christmas themed cups and mugs do really, really well on Etsy. It's kind of surprising. You can't get a huge profit margin from them, but they're never very expensive. So like this, you know, this one was $1.99 at Goodwill. And so, you know, I can mark that up and get 10 times that or more. And so you're not going to get a huge profit margin. I usually try to get at least like $15 for a mug on Etsy if I'm just selling one mug by itself, but this is actually a set of 2 mugs, so I'll mark it up even more. But yeah, it's not terrible price. It's not a terrible margin. So I think it's worth picking those up if you can find them that are in good condition and a good price and look cute as well. I hope that was helpful for you. Some items that I always pick up at the thrift store that do really well on my Etsy shop. You can let me know down in the comments what items you have found do really well for you and that you always pick up whenever you see them at the thrift store. Like I said, this is going to be a 2-parter, so I'll make sure to have next week's video be all about the items that I am avoiding at the thrift store because they do not sell well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye!